Welcome back to Leading with Love, the podcast where we explore how love driven leadership transforms the way we work, live, and lead. Today, we're diving into a powerful distinction between empathy and sympathy. These two words often get used interchangeably, but they're not the same. And understanding the difference can change the way you lead, connect, and build culture all around you. Let's spend a few minutes discussing the difference. Short and simple, sympathy is feeling for someone, and empathy is feeling with someone. Let me break it down a little bit further. Sympathy is often expressed as pity or sorrow. For example, someone shares a traumatic experience or a hardship that they're dealing with. Responding with sympathy sounds like, I'm sorry you're going through that. Responding with empathy sounds like, I can imagine how overwhelming that must feel. See, empathizing is more about perspective taking, stepping into their shoes, and truly understanding their experience. Sympathy keeps us at a distance. It acknowledges pain, but doesn't bridge the gap. Empathy, on the other hand, builds a bridge. It says, I see you, I hear you, and I'm willing to walk alongside you. Now let's talk about why empathy matters at work. There are four main areas where empathy plays a big role. Number one, trust and psychological safety. Empathy fosters environments where team members feel safe to share ideas and challenges. Last week, we explored why it's important to foster a culture that prioritizes acceptance and inclusion. Empathy, just like acceptance and inclusion, helps build trust and psychological safety. Number two, performance and engagement. Teams led with empathy show higher engagement and productivity. When you create an environment where everyone feels safe and genuinely cared for, you create a safe place for people to be their true, authentic selves. And when you allow people to be their true, authentic selves, you get the best version of them, the version of them that shows up only the way they can, and everyone around them reaps the benefit. Number three, conflict resolution. So, empathy helps leaders move beyond the surface to understand underlying needs. By approaching disagreements through an empathetic lens, leaders can navigate tense situations with greater understanding, facilitating solutions that honor everyone's perspectives and foster genuine collaboration. Taking an empathetic approach doesn't just resolve issues, it strengthens team unity and creates a culture where challenges become opportunities for growth. When leaders practice empathy, we don't just manage tasks, we nurture people. And again, people who feel seen and valued bring their best selves to work. And that brings us to number four, retention and culture. It's really simple. People stay where they feel valued and understood. We are more likely to invest our energy and creativity in environments where we feel genuinely appreciated. Fostering a culture that centers empathy inspires loyalty and strengthens team bonds. This sense of belonging not only drives retention, but also shapes a culture where collaboration and innovation thrive, making it possible for everyone to contribute their best and for the organization to succeed on a deeper level. When leaders practice empathy, they don't just manage tasks, they nurture people. I always say you don't manage people, you manage tasks and projects. People are meant to be led. And when you lead with love, empathy, and acceptance, when you bring those qualities to the forefront of your leadership, you create an environment where people feel empowered to show up as their authentic selves and are inspired to contribute their best because they know they're not just valued for what they do, but for who they are. And this doesn't just enhance individual well-being, it transforms team dynamics. It encourages openness, creativity, and mutual respect. So now let's get into some practical ways to put this into practice. Number one, active listening. Put away distractions. There's nothing worse than being in a one-on-one with your leader and they are constantly on the phone or checking their email. And listen, there's no judgment here on my part. I've been there. I've been that busy leader who was being pulled in so many different directions, constantly called upon to put out fires. I barely had time to make a cup of coffee, much less keep all my one on ones frequent and distraction free. However, once I became consciously aware that I was constantly saying, I'm so sorry, I've got to answer this ping, or I'm listening, I just need to respond to this email real quick, I felt like a horrible leader. And even as understanding as my team was, it wasn't fair to them. Their time was just as valuable as mine, and I wanted them to know that. So, guess what? That ping, it can wait. That email, you can respond afterward, or maybe respond to it while you're in that meeting that could have been an email. Another part of active listening, in addition to putting away distractions, is to check for understanding. Reflect back what you hear. I'm not saying be a parrot. I'm saying if your team member is talking to you about an issue or challenge they're having, before you jump into fix it mode or just generally respond, make sure you understand the full scope of the situation and what they actually need from you. And again, no judgment from me, I'm a fixer. A lot of leaders are. So I've been guilty of jumping right into solutioning at times when that's not what was needed from me. Your people need to know that you trust and believe in them. So sometimes when they're sharing, all they need to hear from you is, thanks for the heads up. Let me know if there's anything I can do to support you. People will generally tell you how they need you to show up. You just need to listen for it. And number 2, ask, don't assume. Don't assume you know how they feel. If they don't tell you, you don't. Something that may be frustrating to you may not bother them at all. Remember that they're not you, and that's the beauty of a dynamic and diverse team. Turn, I know how you feel, into a question so that you create space for them to share how they're truly feeling. Number 3, model vulnerability. Share your own challenges openly. It invites others to do the same. Just because you're a leader, it doesn't mean you have to be perfect or know everything. Because guess what? You're not, and you don't. By opening up about your struggles and experiences, you build a foundation of trust, letting your team know it's okay to be honest about what they're facing. It helps them to feel comfortable seeking support because they know that their vulnerability will be met with understanding rather than judgment. Which leads to number 4, respond, don't react. A leader of mine used to say, and shout out to that leader, she knows who she is, but she used to say, leaders bring the weather, meaning that a leader's attitude and behavior set the tone for the entire team. I came to understand that if I reacted strongly or emotionally to every difficulty, my team would naturally mirror that response. However, by maintaining composure and focusing on solutions during times of uncertainty or adversity, I could help guide my team toward a more positive and productive approach. My experience in client service provided countless opportunity for me to flex this muscle. There were many situations where clients were unhappy for one reason or another, and it was crucial for me to remain calm. Instead of escalating stress or frustration, I chose to collaborate with my team and brainstorm solutions together. Having a calm presence helps everyone breathe a little easier and keeps attention on resolving the issue at hand. Ultimately, operating with a high level of emotional intelligence makes even the toughest situations more manageable. By responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively, you create an environment where your team feels supported and empowered to focus on solutions. Last, but certainly not least, our number 5 way to lead with empathy is to create rituals of care. Simple check-ins, practicing gratitude, or even sharing affirmations remind people that they matter. It communicates that you care about the person, not just the work. Empathy is not about fixing, it's about presence. Sometimes the most powerful move is to simply sit in the moment with someone and let them know that they're not alone. Now that we've talked through some practical ways to lead with empathy, I want to share with you another way empathy is communicated but often misunderstood, and that's empathy through storytelling. Communicating with empathy goes beyond words. It's about forging genuine connections, and storytelling is one of the most powerful tools for doing just that. Empathy doesn't always look the same for everyone, especially among neurodivergent individuals, such as those who are autistic, ADHD, dyslexic, or simply wired differently. For many, sharing a personal story that mirrors someone else's experience is simply a natural way to express empathy. It just says, I genuinely empathize and understand how you might be feeling. When someone tells their own story in response, they're validating your feelings and letting you know you're not alone. However, sometimes this approach can be misunderstood. It's often perceived as making the conversation about themselves, but that's not the intention. In reality, storytelling in these moments is meant to be a bridge, a way to show solidarity and understanding, not to shift the focus. From a personal perspective, I recognize this tendency within myself. I'm an open book, no pun intended, and storytelling has always been a way of me connecting with others, simply because that's how my brain works. Years ago, a close friend responded to my storytelling in frustration, saying, "You always make it about you." Her words were a gut punch. They made me pause to reflect on why I was responding in a way that clearly to her was not an appropriate way to respond. But as I was seeking clarity, I came to realize that some people's brains are just wired to connect through storytelling. Now, despite the natural inclination, because it made me sad that I upset my friend, I do make a conscious effort to be more thoughtful in how and when I share my own stories, but I'll never stop. It's just how my brain is wired. Not only that, storytelling can be a meaningful way to communicate to someone you're not alone. When we recognize storytelling as a form of empathy, we stop misinterpreting it as self focus and start seeing it as connection. Empathy doesn't always sound like I understand. Sometimes it sounds like, here's my story so you know that you're not alone. So today's takeaway is simple. Sympathy acknowledges, but empathy connects. As leaders, our role is not to stand on the sidelines of someone's struggle. It's to step into their world with compassion and curiosity. That's how we build cultures rooted in love. And now it's time for me to share today's affirmation. So close your eyes unless you take a deep breath in, relax as you exhale, and receive the affirmation. I lead with empathy. I choose to listen, to understand, and to connect. My leadership is love in action. Again, I lead with empathy. I choose to listen, to understand, and to connect. My leadership is love in action. One more time. I lead with empathy. I choose to listen, to understand, and to connect. My leadership is love in action. Thank you for joining me today on Leading with Love. If this episode inspired you, please like, subscribe, and share it with a colleague or friend who could use a reminder of the power of empathy. And remember, connection is the heartbeat of leadership. So lead with empathy and let love be your legacy. See you next week.